What's up guys, I am BlackOpsAmazing. Welcome back to another Eisendrache video. Today for you we have a new cipher that has been solved. There are so many Easter eggs within this game, it's quite hard to get your head around it. There are actually so many ciphers that have already been solved, which will be coming as videos later on in my channel, and still many that are unsolved. But today for you I've got one that is going to be very interesting, which is actually going to give us a ton of information about the storyline. If you do enjoy the video, all I'm going to ask is you drop a like rating whenever you feel like it. If not, it's fine. But anyway, let's get into it. So if you head inside of the church and take a look on one of the computer screens, you will see this cipher. You will see the key is Maxis, and then below we actually have the cipher. Now, as stated previously, this has already been decoded, so a massive shout out to the guys who solved this over on Reddit. I will link them down in the description. But this is a Bifidi cipher, I believe that's how you pronounce it. It's a fractionated cipher, just or very similar to the one on Shadows of Evil actually, but once decoded it says this: Father introduced me to a new friend that just arrived. His name is Edward. He is nice, but doesn't like to share the toys. The first thing that comes to my mind is the Origins cutscene. Our two children, Samantha and Edward. We never really knew who this Edward kid was. We knew that he wasn't related to Samantha because he says to her, "We better do what your dad says." Obviously, Samantha doesn't have the same dad as Edward. And from this, we can now confirm that they are friends. Maxis actually introduced these two kids. There is also a ton of evidence, even though it isn't confirmed, that Edward is Eddie. This is Edward Richtofen. I mean, everything about him resembles Edward Richtofen, but obviously here, he is a kid, which actually doesn't really work out or make too much sense since we know that Edward Richtofen is a lot older than Samantha. But either way, Maxis, for some reason, decided to introduce Eddie to Samantha. Now, we do know when Edward was a teenager, or in his youth when he was a G-star, probably not. But we do know when he was younger, his parents died when he was in university. Richtofen, though, was a very smart kid, and Maxis could see that Richtofen was different from anyone else. He knew a lot more, he had a lot more knowledge, he was smarter. So Maxis decided to take Richtofen under his arms and kind of like take him in as his own. So Richtofen, back then at least, before Derice, actually looked up to Maxis as a father figure. I guess Maxis also acted like a father to Richtofen. Now, even with this information that I've just told you, it still doesn't make too much sense about this Origins cutscene. Even if Maxis did take Richtofen in as his own, Richtofen still is not the same age as Samantha. So why can we see these two kids that are at the same age, who are believed to be Richtofen and Samantha? Why are they the same age in this cutscene when in real life or in the actual game we know they're not? Well, it got me thinking. Now, what if, and I think this may be quite possible, we know Maxis saw a lot in Richtofen. He knew Richtofen was different. He knew Richtofen was going to go on to achieve great things. Obviously, Maxis saw something about Richtofen. That's the reason for him, I guess you could say, kind of adopting him, even though he didn't. That's what I would call it. Now, we know that Maxis already has his daughter Samantha. What if it's possible that Maxis teleported Richtofen back in time in another universe, or cloned Richtofen, or did something to him that would no longer make him age, and in fact would make him back to his younger self where he was the same age as Samantha? Possibly then this could mean Maxis could bring them both up at the same time. Because Edward was so smart as a kid, he could probably pass some of that on to Samantha, or Maxis wanted both of them to grow up together to become, for some reason, these really smart people that could probably go on and follow in Maxis's footsteps. I don't know, maybe I thought that was a possibility. Either way, we don't really have an explanation behind this. But getting back to the cipher, Father introduced me to a new friend that just arrived. His name is Edward. Notice how it also says this friend just arrived. She's never seen them before. She's probably never heard of them before. This friend, Edward Richtofen, the kid, just seemed to pop up out of nowhere, possibly relating to what I said earlier. But she also says he is nice, but he doesn't like to share toys. And we actually do see Eddie the kid starting to moan about how he didn't get his turn, about how girls can't play zombies. And yeah, I guess that also kind of represents Richtofen in his older form. We know that he's a selfish character. He likes to go about things his own way. For example, in Derice, he obviously went behind Maxis's back and followed his own plan. But we also know in Eisendrache, we have a lot of references about Samantha. In fact, in the living quarters, we know this is where Maxis used to stay when he came over to the Eagle's Nest, or Eisendrache. When he came over to this Group 935 research lab, he used to stay in these living quarters. I'm guessing he also used to bring along his daughter Samantha, just like when he went to the Giant, he would take her there too. And this room we can see right here is most probably where Samantha used to stay. When Richtofen enters here, he does mention Samantha being here, but she no longer is. And actually, it's also mentioned that Richtofen had a room here as well. So there was Maxis, Samantha, and Richtofen, although Richtofen was in the other side. There is no evidence pointing towards this being Richtofen as his older self or Richtofen as a kid, although if you do look at the room, it does seem dark. It doesn't seem like a place where a kid would stay, so it's possibly the older version of Richtofen when he worked at Eisendrache. Actually, having a closer look into this room that is supposedly Richtofen's, from the very small quote that we get, you can find this hat. The German general's hat. And what does Richthofen wear? This exact hat. Now, the only difference is we have this wolf badge on it, the exact same badge that we can see in the Giants. Richtofen's hat has actually changed a tiny bit throughout the course of our Call of Duty Zombie storyline. This here is the hat that we would see Richtofen wear, which can be more evidence I've gathered to show that this was the older version of Richtofen living here, and this in fact was his room. But either way, we do get these quotes. Let me know what you think about these ciphers in the comment section below. I've got so many more videos coming for you guys. They are getting very, very interesting, and hopefully when they do all finally get figured out, we are going to have an awesome zombie storyline. We know this is the conclusion. This is basically the ending, but we're also going to get new paths as we lead onto DLC 2. I am so excited. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video. I try my very best. If you have, drop me a like rating. That'll be much appreciated. Let's shoot for 1115 likes for the celebration of this map. If you are interested in any Black Ops Amazing t-shirts for the release of Der Eisendrache, check the link in the description. They are on sale now. If you do get one, make sure you message me about it, and I'll be sure to retweet you or whatever. Thanks for watching, guys. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. I have been Black Ops Amazing, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you, and goodbye.